a low, guttural rumble of 1,000 marching boots. The wind howls through a narrow mountain pass, carrying the scent of sulphur. Mist coils eerily from ancient sulphur springs. A single, battered bronze helmet lies cracked in the mud, a silent testament to a forgotten struggle. At the very edge of the known world, where towering mountains kiss the turbulent sea and sulphurous steam rises from the earth like a premonition, 300 men stood. They stood as the last bastion between the relentless tide of an empire and the fragile flame of freedom. They did not stand to conquer, they did not stand to win, they stood so that others yet unborn might live free. This is the true story of the Battle of Thermopylae, not the embellished legend, nor the simplified Hollywood tale. This is the raw, visceral account of blood, of prophecy, of betrayal, and of an unyielding defiance, a defiance that shook an empire to its very core and echoed through the annals of history. Just 10 years before the hot gates bled red, the mighty Persian Empire had already tasted the bitter sting of Greek defiance. At the legendary plains of Marathon, Darius, the King of Kings, watched in disbelief as his vast armies were repelled by a smaller yet fiercely determined force of Greek hoplites and citizen soldiers. His humiliation, a wound to the very pride of the Achaemenid Empire, rippled through the opulent palaces of Persepolis like a curse. It was a defeat that demanded retribution, a stain that only absolute conquest could erase. A crackling scroll is slammed shut with finality. A deep, resonant war drum begins a slow, ominous beat, growing in intensity. It was Darius's son, Xerxes I, who would inherit this burning desire for vengeance. He would return, not merely to finish what his father had begun, but to utterly obliterate any notion of Greek independence. Xerxes did not seek a mere battle. He sought an absolute erasure, a total subjugation that would leave no doubt as to the supreme power of the Persian Empire. His invasion was an unprecedented display of imperial might, a force so vast it was said to drink rivers dry. Greece in 480 BCE was not a unified nation. It was a volatile mosaic of independent city-states, Athens, Sparta, Thebes, Corinth, each fiercely proud, often suspicious, and frequently at odds with one another. Their internal rivalries ran deeper than any shared sense of Hellenic identity. Yet, when the colossal shadow of Persia stretched across the Aegean Sea, threatening to engulf their very way of life, even ancient enemies were forced to look beyond their feuds. They sought salvation not in unity, but in a desperate, fragile alliance. The Spartans, renowned for their unparalleled military discipline and strategic acumen, understood something crucial that many others did not. They knew that terrain itself could be transformed into a formidable weapon. They identified a pass, a narrow choke point where the sheer numerical superiority of Xerxes' forces would be rendered utterly meaningless. This strategic bottleneck had a name that whispered of both natural wonder and impending doom: Thermopylae, the hot gates, named for its steaming sulphur springs. It was here, at this geographical crucible, that they would make their stand. Before the Spartan army marched, before a single shield was raised in defiance, they sought guidance from the most revered spiritual authority in the ancient world, the Oracle of Delphi. The question posed was stark, laden with the fate of a civilization. Would Sparta survive this impending war? The oracle's reply was chilling, a pronouncement that echoed with the weight of destiny and sacrifice. Either a king must fall, or Sparta, the glorious city, would be utterly consumed by fire. A hand, trembling slightly, seals a wax tablet, the weight of the prophecy palpable. Leonidas, the warrior king of Sparta, did not flinch. He understood the oracle's grim decree. His duty was clear, his fate sealed. He gathered not a vast army, but a meticulously chosen contingent of 300 men. These were not just any warriors, they were the elite of the Spartan phalanx, each a seasoned veteran, a master of the spear and shield. Crucially, each of these chosen men was a father, a man with a son, an heir to carry his name, to preserve his lineage, and to embody the enduring spirit of Sparta long after his bones had turned to ash on the battlefield. This was a sacrifice of the highest order, a testament to their unwavering commitment to their city-state. The force that departed from Sparta was far from a grand, overwhelming army. It comprised the legendary 300 Spartans, the very embodiment of martial excellence. They were joined by approximately 7,000 other brave Greeks, stalwart Thespians, resolute Thebans, and steadfast Phocians, citizen soldiers drawn from various city-states, each answering the desperate call to arms. They were men of diverse backgrounds, united by a common terrifying threat. As they marched towards the pass, the very land seemed to protest their presence. Sulfur hissed ominously from fissures in the earth, and the air itself carried a faint metallic tang, a premonition of death even before the first blow was struck. Yet, with grim determination, they pressed onward. The rhythmic clang of metal striking stone, the thunderous slam of shields locking together in formation. Upon reaching Thermopylae, Leonidas, with the strategic brilliance of a seasoned commander, positioned his Spartans at the narrowest, most critical points of the pass. Shoulder to shoulder, shield to shield, they formed an impenetrable human wall. It was a spear line of unyielding resolve, a living barrier designed to funnel and break the overwhelming waves of the Persian advance. They were ready to meet the world. Xerxes arrived with a force of truly continental proportions. Estimates vary, but his army numbered in the hundreds of thousands, perhaps even 1 million, supported by a massive fleet. For 4 agonizing days he waited, convinced that the mere sight of his countless banners, the sheer scale of his might, would cause the Greeks to flee in terror. But they did not flee. Instead, the Greeks, with an almost defiant nonchalance, groomed their long hair, oiled their beards, and sharpened their weapons. They prayed not for survival, but for the honor of a warrior's death, a glorious end in defense of their homeland. When a Persian envoy, brimming with imperial arrogance, demanded their surrender, Leonidas's reply was delivered with a chilling calm. It was a 2-word declaration that would echo through the centuries, becoming a timeless symbol of defiance. Molon Labe, come and take them. Xerxes, enraged by the Spartan king's insolence, unleashed his vast army. He sent wave after wave of his finest warriors. First, his less experienced units, then his elite Medes, and finally, his legendary immortals, the very heart of the Persian fighting machine. Yet each assault, no matter how fierce, broke like futile waves against an unyielding stone cliff. The Greeks fought with the disciplined precision of the phalanx, a tightly packed formation of heavily armed hoplites, their shields interlocked, their long spears bristling forward. It was a brutal, efficient fighting machine. Persian arrows, countless as raindrops, darkened the very sky. For 2 grueling days, the earth at Thermopylae drank deeply of Persian blood. Tens of thousands of Xerxes' finest warriors lay dead, their bodies piled high in the narrow pass. And the Greeks? Against all odds, they were still standing, their resolve unbroken, their line unyielding. Their courage was a beacon against the encroaching darkness. But even the most heroic stand can be undone by the insidious poison of envy and treachery. Victory, or rather, the prolonged stalemate, invited the darkest of human failings. A name whispered through history with an enduring stain of shame emerged: Ephialtes, a local Greek driven by the promise of immense wealth and personal safety from the Persian king, revealed the existence of a hidden goat path. This treacherous trail wound through the mountains, bypassing the main Greek defenses, and leading directly behind Leonidas's position. By nightfall, the ominous sound of dry leaves crackling under the boots of Persian soldiers could be heard. The Immortals, led by High Dans, were already moving, silently, inexorably, to outflank the valiant defenders. Word of the betrayal reached Leonidas. He knew with chilling certainty that his position had been outflanked. Death was no longer a distant possibility. It was a grim, inevitable sunrise away. His strategic objective, to hold the pass, was now impossible. With the wisdom of a true leader, he made a momentous decision. He dismissed the majority of the allied Greek forces, urging them to retreat, to save themselves, to live and fight another day. Only the 300 Spartans remained, bound by their sacred oath and their king's unwavering resolve. They were joined by 700 brave Thespians who, with an equally profound sense of honor, refused to abandon their Spartan comrades. A small contingent of Thebans, though their loyalty was suspect, also remained, perhaps out of fear or a desperate hope for clemency. They did not stand to win a battle that was already lost. They stood to send a message, a defiant roar across the ages. They stood to remind the world, then and now, that true courage cannot be measured by numbers, nor extinguished by overwhelming odds. It is an unyielding spirit. Leonidas, facing the dawn of his final day, delivered words that would forever be etched into the annals of heroism. Eat a hearty breakfast, for tonight we dine in Hades. It was a statement of grim acceptance, of unwavering resolve, and of a profound shared destiny. The final day was a maelstrom of chaos, a desperate, glorious struggle against impossible odds. The Spartans, their spears shattered, their swords broken, fought with their bare hands, with rocks, with teeth, with every ounce of their remaining strength. They were a whirlwind of defiance, each man a living monument to courage. A slow, deliberate heartbeat echoing the final moments. Leonidas, the Lion of Sparta, was pierced by a volley of Persian arrows. His loyal warriors, with a desperate surge of strength, fought fiercely to retrieve his body from the fray, not to save him, for that was beyond their power, but so that he could die with dignity, surrounded by those who loved him as both their king and their brother in arms. They fought over his body 4 times, a testament to their devotion, before they were finally overwhelmed. Xerxes, in a petty act of vengeance, ordered Leonidas's head mounted on a stake, a grotesque display of imperial power, but no monument he built, no fleeting victory he claimed, would ever last like the immortal tale of Thermopylae. A stone lion now marks the sacred ground where they fell, a silent sentinel to their sacrifice. Etched beneath it, a timeless epitaph, penned by the poet Simonides, speaks for the fallen. Go tell the Spartans, thou that passest by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. Their sacrifice, though a tactical defeat, was a profound strategic victory. It was a spark that ignited the flame of Greek resistance, a rallying cry that galvanized the disparate city-states. This flame burned fiercely through the decisive naval victory at Salamis, where the Persian fleet was shattered, and culminated in the land triumph at Plataea, where the Persian army was finally routed. Thermopylae bought precious time, inspired unwavering resolve, and ultimately ensured that Greece stood free. Thermopylae was not merely a battle. It was a masterclass in strategic defense, a testament to the power of terrain and disciplined forces against overwhelming numbers. It was the birth of a legend, a symbol of resistance that echoes today in every soldier who stands firm when retreat is easy, when death is certain, and when the cause is greater than oneself. It teaches us that even in defeat there can be triumph, and that true courage is an unconquerable force. In a world often obsessed with overwhelming numbers, and material might, remember the profound lesson of Thermopylae. Sometimes just 300 standing with unwavering conviction is more than enough to change the course of history. If this epic story of courage and sacrifice moved you, if it ignited your passion for the untold truths of ancient warfare, then join us on our next journey. Discover more profound moments where myth meets fact and the past breathes again. Subscribe to History Unburied, where we unearth the forgotten sagas, analyze the strategic brilliance, and celebrate the enduring spirit of humanity. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. Alexander's greatest battle, the day he became a god. Your journey into history continues.